We're going to talk about Dapper Dans Breakfast Club interview. I've been getting a lot of tweets, a lot of hits on Instagram. People asking me to discuss. A lot of people have a lot of different views about it. First, let me say, I think that what Dapper Dan has meant for this culture is it's unexplainable. I think he's been a fashion icon for about 10 and 50 plus years. I think understanding how these major brands copied what he's done and appropriated what he's done, taken what he's done, to be able to see him right now being able to capitalize off of years of hard work after they stole from him in itself is just, I applaud that man. I think it's way overdue. But with that said, watching his interview, it was so enlightening about history in Harlem, about his plight in Harlem, how he educated himself, how he utilized the education to be one step ahead of people, how even when things went bad for him, he figured out, he said he was going to read himself out of his problems. It was an inspirational, just listening to him. And we've had conversations, and that's pretty much what this is going to be about. So listening to that interview, so enlightening. A lot of things he said about why we black people are drawn to these brands and why we feel like we need to, and Envy and Charlamagne's comment, Envy's comment saying because we saw the drug dealers with these cars that nobody had, so we wanted to have what nobody else had. We wanted to be exclusive. We wanted to be the ones that said, I got it and you don't have it. That was a mentality that was brought up in us. But what I want to say to me was the issue with what he said in that interview. And it was a very, very big issue that we have as black people. Is that I understand the system. Coming from prison, coming into this political world, being an activist and having to sit down with city officials and having to sit down with officials that I don't really want to deal with, and understanding that there has to be an inside-out game. I'm in the streets putting pressure so that the inside can have power. I have friends who are politicians, and I don't put them in a position to do the shit that I gotta do. We understand our roles. They understand that. I understand that they can't say the things that I say because they're bonded by different rules. But I'm able to say whatever it is that I want to say and say the facts. And able to support them by saying facts that they can say. And we play a game understanding that, listen, these are people I have relationships with. They have the streets. They're not going to stop pushing. I have the ability to calm them down maybe, but they're not going to stop pushing until they get the shit that they deserve. The basic human rights and the justice that they're fighting for, you need to give it to them. They're not going to say it the way I say it, but they're going to understand that it needs to be said, and we're going to continue to put pressure from the streets. With that said, bringing you back to Dapper Dan's comments, and he said, you got to be the inside, you got to understand the intricate learning. So when the Gucci situation happened, people wanted him to move away, and no, that's not what you do. You got to stay in, you got to be around, you got to see how this thing works, you got to see what's happening, you got to be inside to be able to figure out how to move, and I'm all for that. But the problem with what he said, there was two problems. The problem what he said was that black people, we don't have the ability to start our own company. You know, we can have the money, but we don't have the ability. And that, for me, is just, that's a defeated mentality. It's what it's a slave mentality. No disrespect, but it's a mentality that we believe, look, the white people already know what they're doing. We need to be a part of them to be able to do what we do. People are scared to start from scratch. People are scared to start from a space to where you build your own brand. They scared. So what happens is you attach your brand to something else that now you need that brand to be successful. Instead of doing what that brand once did, was start from scratch and build it up, and started with one store and built up 2 stores to create their own franchise. That mentality for me is dangerous. And I'm not mad because he's an older individual, so he's been through his struggle. And I realize that about a lot of our older leaders, fighters. Sometimes they get to a place where the fight is different for them. They're not going to be out there doing that. They're not going to be out there arguing. They're not going to be out there beefing. They're not going to sacrifice their livelihood. They're not going to sacrifice their freedom. So they just figure out a way to peacefully coexist without ruffling anything. So what happens in that's what happened with this Gucci situation. What happened with Dapper Dan was, like he said, they called him and he wanted to see if he was serious. At that point, I got a call from Dapper Dan through a mutual friend that I don't want to name because I don't know if they want to be named. Through a mutual friend who put us on a call, and he told me he wanted me to be at this meeting because our mutual friend had explained to him, what it is that I do in the community, my ties to the streets, my ties to politics, my understanding of what's going on here. And how now Gucci had committed a civil rights violation. It was a civil rights violation. It wasn't just you put blackface. What they did was defamed a whole culture of people. And when you defame a culture of people, and it's just like anything, if you walk inside Kentucky Fried Chicken and they put something in your food that it shouldn't be in there, you sue them and they have to pay you for their wrongdoing. They have to pay you. They don't have to pay everybody that walks into the restaurant after that. Yeah, they have to make sure that moving forward that doesn't happen to anyone else that comes into the restaurant. But they immediately have to pay the people who were wronged. So when I sat down with Dapper Dan, we got on his phone, which was about an hour and something long phone call. He said, I'm going to have you at this meeting. I want you to sit down at the meeting and explain, because I understood the violation. I understood the level of the violation that Gucci had committed. And when the meeting came, Dapper Dan never called me for the meeting. I reached out to him twice prior to the date he said the meeting was. Never called me to the meeting. Next thing I know, I seen him post about the meeting. Now, I'm not mad that I'm not at the meeting. I'm a little disappointed that somebody said that I would be somewhere. That they didn't even notify me and say, well, things have changed. We're not going to have you at the meeting. That right there in itself made me question the integrity of the individual that I was dealing with. Secondly, when I looked at the agreement that was agreed upon, there was nothing that directly benefited the people who were wronged. There was nothing that benefited black people. If you read that whole thing, there's nothing that says this will be done for black people. That's what my issue was to go in there for. When I wanted to go into the room, the people who were supposed to go in the room, we were going in there to say, this is what's happened to black people. This is how you are going to compensate black people. We had a list of demands that we needed to impact black people directly. We needed black leadership. We needed y'all to open. We needed y'all to open. What is that? We need y'all to open factories. A factory where black people will be employed. We needed y'all to have diversity training. We needed black people to be in certain positions. We needed direct things that were going to impact and affect and benefit black people, the same people who were wronged and disrespected, and culture had been diminished. This is what we needed. I didn't tell a man to leave Gucci. I never said, yo, you need to leave Gucci. No. You have a position now. You have made yourself pretty much a franchise face of a brand. You have the ability to sit down with these people and make real demands because they made real mistakes. Dapper Dan was unwilling to do that. Dapper Dan got on the phone with me after he had a conversation, after he did this meeting, and I sat down and explained to him what we should have been requiring that Gucci did, and he said, well, they're not going to do that. So I'm just going to get out of it. So my thing is, you were afraid to ask the people for what you know that we deserved as black people. Not that we told you to quit. You didn't even want to go in there and say, yo, look, this is what the people want. I'm the representative of the people. This is what the people are saying. You were too scared to have a conversation with these people and say, hey, this is how the culture feels. The culture which represents me, that I represent, who supports me, who made this brand what it is, this is what they feel. This is what they require. This is what the people who are on the streets with that culture, the people who are fighting for us daily, that are risking their lives, that know, that are day to day with that culture, this is what those people want. The man wouldn't even have that conversation. Not only didn't he invite us to the meeting, after he said we were supposed to go to the meeting, he wouldn't even bring that conversation back to the table. Now, there were some people who were at the meeting that I respect, some people that, I could care less about. But at the end of the day, he was scared to stand up on behalf of what black people deserved, and he settled for a diversity plan. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, it's not, if you inside if you inside a system and you not making a change necessary, if you're not dismantling, if you just in there and you just keeping a spot because you want to know how to do this and you want to just make money, then are you it really a representative for the black people? Because anybody can get it. If you just get into a movement, into a place, and you get into an organization, and you're not making significant change, if you just peacefully coexisting, trying to figure out, how I'm going to get in here and make me some more money and sell to the world, that shit is cool. But if you're not making significant change, if you're not bringing people in directly with you, and every time something is wrong, you're holding them accountable, then you're not really doing anything for our culture. You're doing something for yourself. The man is a legend. I do not want to diminish what it is that he means to this culture, but I need him to understand his own power. When Charlamagne kept saying, why can't you have a big enough face right now? Why can't you break off and start your own brand? And the thought of that is scary. The thought of that is scary. Gucci doesn't owe you something. Gucci, if you're a black man, Gucci owes you something. Gucci is guilty of a civil rights violation. Just like any other violation, when you are violated, if the police beat you up and you file a complaint, they pay you for their wrongs. Gucci did some bullshit. They put out some 10-year plan, talking about some $5 million. If you read over the shit, it's no clear-cut anything that they have to do for black people. Nothing. There's no clear-cut shit that they got to do anyway. It was a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. So this is where my issue was. I just want you to know, as the younger generation, do not limit your greatness. Do not limit what it is that you can do. Do not let somebody tell you that you can't do something because they couldn't do it or wasn't willing to do it. I know a lot of people who started their own and built from the bottom and got way more than most people have. This mentality comes from slavery, that the white man's ice is colder. You know, we like Charlamagne said, we will look at our own product that's made by us and won't buy it, but buy something that's made by them with their name on it because it got their name on it. How did we get programmed to believe that their name meant more than ours? You know, I don't want to hand out. If you wrong me, sir, if you wrong me and you do something wrong to me, if you violate me the same way that the white people do, when you do something wrong, they sue you. They continue to make millions and billions of dollars from wrongful suits. From suits where somebody did something wrong. It's people who live their life suing people. Every time you do something wrong and you go against the law, they make sure that you pay them. So why shouldn't we be compensated and paid when we are wrong? I don't want no handout. Never wanted a handout because I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing anyway. So while I'm making sure you pay me for your wrong, I'm still already building my shit. So whatever you give me because you owe it to me, because you wronged me, and I suffered damages based on your wrongdoing, I'm going to add that to the shit I'm doing by myself on my own, from the ground, from the bottom. See, people don't understand that. Mysonne, I love the passion you have for uplifting us. It just seems to me that you feel people don't agree with. And I don't feel that they're wrong. I just feel like their position. Whether you wrong or right, I'm gonna be strong in my position. If you don't have to agree with me, but if you don't agree with me, for me, right, you got to give me facts. Because I don't just talk bullshit. I don't just talk what I think. I talk what I know. I give you tangible, step by step, why I believe what I believe. So if you come to me with some shit that's not even logical and just say you just don't believe me, then I can't even have a conversation with you. If you just screaming in the camera, oh yo, fuck that, because you want attention, that's not the person I am. That's not what I do. You know, so I apologize if you feel that I think everybody's wrong who don't agree with me. No. No, if we having a debate, if I feel a way, there's a reason why I don't feel the way you feel. And I'm able to explain that. If you don't feel the way I feel, you're not able to explain it, and you're just saying, yo, nah, you just wrong, then I don't need to talk to nobody. Yeah, I'm talking about a legend because even legends make mistakes. Sometimes you got to tell them. You know, like he said, sometimes I got to ask my grandkids, yo, what's that the thing about? When you get to a certain stage, I go to talk to my kids, talk to my nephews, talk to my brothers about shit I don't know. So when you don't know something, or you removed your mentality from basic ground up thinking, then sometimes you need to be pulled back. You know, so much love to Dapper Dan, but what I want to say is, man, there's a mentality not to, you know, it's the same thing like the police. People scared to stand up for their rights, to say anything. Don't get violent, but know your rights and say, hey, look, I have the right to do this, and I have the right to do that. I have the right to do this, or I have the right to do that. Say that. It's just like Dapper Dan should have sat up in that meeting and spoke on behalf of the people who support him. Not just let them tell him, yo, this is what we're going to do. There wasn't even, listen to me, there was not even a negotiation process. Just think about it. Just think about it. You went to a meeting, there was a public outroar. Public, all over the world. Outcry. Yo, Gucci this and that. You sat down in one meeting and came up with a total plan that they put forth. Where was the negotiation process? When did you come back to the streets and say, hey, this is what they want, what do y'all think? When did you Who was the representative for the people on the streets? The people from hip hop, the culture that represents you. Who was their young representative? Like I know a lot of people that were in that room, but there's nobody that looked like me or represented where I come from was in that room. Just nobody. It's none of us. You know, you talk about T.I. and all that. We were the people who were outraged, who called for a boycott of Gucci. How was none of the people that called for the boycott of Gucci involved in how you compensate the people? How did that make sense to Dapper Dan as being an OG? Not to sit down, even if they didn't call him the moon, to come back and sit down with us and say, yo, Young Bloods, so what do y'all want? You know, what do you think it's going to take for us to get to the right level with Gucci? There was none of that. So, as much as we want to sit there and respect Dapper Dan and respect what he represents and what he's done, you still got to call out the wrongdoing. You got to call out the short steps. You got to call out where he missed the mark and where he's continuing to spread a mentality that is going to hurt us. We don't have to attach ourselves to none of these brands. We don't. We can be global without these brands. You can do the same shit, you know, the same shit Frank Lucas did. Frank Lucas took a trip and met with people. These brands got spreaded because they did groundwork. They did groundwork from the bottom, not attached to anything else. And continue to grow. Continue to grow and spread this shit one by one. And it took years. It don't take 2 or 3 days. You have the ability to do that. The same way hip hop has become a global market. They are independent artists who have a global appeal, who have never attached themselves to a major. And they have a global appeal. We have the internet, which reaches the world, which reaches everywhere in the world. You have the ability to reach everyone in the world with whatever it is that you're trying to sell. Do not allow anybody, anything to tell you that you can't.